beasts of false religions. What do false religions do to people?
Sidetrack them.
Huh?
Get them sidetracked.
The beasts of false religion. They kill. If they don't convert, they kill, don't they? If you don't go their way, they kill you. There's only one way. Their way or dead. That's the way it is. And we're going to see a little bit of that today. These beasts in control and in great power. And we'll find out that the one that was supposed to be the bad guy is actually maybe not so quite the bad guy at all. Maybe he's the protector. Acts 23 and verse 1. And Paul looking intently at the council. What's this council here, Brother David? Do you know what this council is? Acts 23 and verse 1, this council, Sister Andino? What council is this? That young lady? Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin. Who originated the Sanhedrin? Brother Bill? Who originated the Sanhedrin? Who was the man that initiated the Sanhedrin? Who? No, Brother Mike.
I'm going to guess
Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, Jeter, all the different names that he had. You know, he had a lot of different names, okay? So Moses' father-in-law is the one that initiated or suggested the Sanhedrin court. And of course, what did he say? Find men among you that are what? Upright, perfect in every way, moral, cannot be bought. You know, they cannot be bought. That's what they were supposed to be. But look at what we've got here. We got Ananias here. Now, this is not Annas. This is Ananias, okay? This is whom Jehovah exalts or honorable. You know, that's what his name means, Ananias. This Ananias is going to be the leader of this, is going to get killed later on. Ananias was in league with the Romans, except here he's not quite supporting the Romans, but he's trying to get the Romans to help him kill Paul like they did Jesus. This situation and what happened to Jesus are almost like juxtaposition railroad tracks, side by side. And Paul, looking intently at the Sanhedrin court, let's get it all down there, said, Brethren, I have lived my life with perfectly good conscience. Paul uses this word conscience 21 times in the New Testament that we know about. 21 times he used this. What is a conscience? What is a conscience?
It's the Holy Spirit telling you when you do something wrong.
All right. It's something inside of us. Romans, the first chapter, talks about the conscience that tells us when we're doing something. It convicts us when we're doing something wrong. Now, I know that false religious systems like Islam and Mormonism, they make up their own rules. But sometimes, now, if you're a Mormon and you start getting convicted, if some Christian preaches to you, I mean, they try to be Christians, but when some Christian preaches to you and you're a Mormon, and you start getting convicted and start feeling sad in your heart, what are you supposed to do if you're a Mormon? What does their philosophy say? Run! Run away from that conscience, because that's the devil dealing with you, which is actually God. Now, isn't that something that they put devil in the place of God? God is what deals with a man's conscience. You have to be thoroughly brainwashed from youth to not have a God-instilled conscience, which people do, don't they? Brother Madden used to say, every time I hear these little kids over there getting killed in the Middle East, he said, I praise God. He said they won't grow up to be heathens and go to hell. That was his philosophy. That was his philosophy. Well, why? Because they're brainwashed from youth. Their conscience is totally twisted and perverted. It becomes the conscience of a beast. And now we're going to meet the beast right here in just a minute. Now, old Ananias finally later on, when the Sicarii, you know, the Romans thought that Paul the Apostle was that leader of the Egyptian Sicarii, didn't they? When they first heard about him, they said, "Are you that guy? Are you the Egyptian down there that took 4,000 men, did this and this?" You know, and they chased him, and he ran off, and he hid out. He had never had been captured yet. Barabbas was one of the Sicarii leaders. Those two men that were crucified on the crosses with Jesus were Sicarii. They were these rebels. And now Ananias, because he's so leagued with the Romans, later on when they attacked Jerusalem and started cleaning house, the Sicarii, you know, they were the real zealots, as the Apostle Paul was a Sicarii at one time. Now here we have a former Sicarii standing in front of a Jewish liberal, so to speak, okay? This is what this Ananias is. He said, "I had a perfectly good conscience before God up to this day. Now, the beastly high priest," let's call him the beastly high priest, "and the beastly high priest Ananias commanded those standing beside him to strike him in the mouth, hit him in the mouth, give him a punch, knock him down, slap his mouth." And Paul said to him, "God is going to strike you, you whitewashed sepulcher." You know what he called him? He called him a hypocrite. Remember when Jesus said, he said, "You 2 times you go around the countryside making proselytes, and you make them 2 times the son of hell that you are." This beastly, perverted conscience they put in these people. "Going to strike you, you whitewashed wall." Remember, they used to whitewash the tombs before the holy days so you'd stay away from them. You know, verboten. That's dirty. Remember what the lepers used to say when you come near a leopard? "Unclean, unclean, unclean." In other words, he called him unclean. "You unclean. And you sit and try according to the law, and in violation of the law order me to be struck. You whitewashed graveyard." But the bystander said, "Do you revile the high priest, God's high priest?" And Paul said, "I was not aware, brethren, that he was the high priest, for it is written, you shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people," even though he's a beastly ruler. This was a cruel man. But perceiving that one part were Sadducees and the other part were Pharisees, Paul kept on crying out in the council, "Brethren, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. I am on trial for the hope and the resurrection of the dead." So now what did Paul just do? Divide and conquer. Yeah, I mean, he's using politics now. He's using politics. Divide and conquer. By the way, here, he said, "I have lived my life." Look at that word. Well, "I have lived my life." That word is pepolitumes, pepolitumes, and that's first person singular perfect indicative passive. What he actually said there is, "I have been called to live my life as a free citizen." That word police comes from that. Politics comes from this word. I have been called to live my life as a free citizen. Free and lawful citizen. Lawful citizen. According to the real conscience of God. According to the real law of God. That's what Paul told him. Now you go back and you start putting all these little pieces together, okay? Put all these pieces together. And that's why he said, "And you sit there and you try me according to the law, and in violation of the law you order me to be struck. You shall not speak evil of a ruler of your people." But perceiving that one part were Sadducees. What were these Sadducees? They were these very religious, put this in your mind, very religious atheist. Very religious atheist. Very religious atheist. They did not believe in the resurrection. They did not believe in spirits. They didn't even believe in God. Except that they believed that they had some type of a revelation that had right from wrong. These are what the Southern Baptists used to be in 1900. Remember, they had a $9 million program in 1900. We're going to bring in the millennium. Now, what is the humanistic idea of mankind? And this is your Sadduceeism. What's the humanistic idea of mankind?
That you're God, that you have control of.
That you actually are good. And that if you change the environment of a person, that he will not go do anything bad. If you give him enough food, he won't steal. If you give him enough, he won't do anything wrong. You have to change their environment and put him in a perfect environment, and therefore everybody can get along.
Hasn't worked yet.
This is what the idea of the Sadducees was. This is what the idea of the Southern Baptist Convention was in 1900. They were going to bring in the millennium. This is what you call postmillennialism. I want you to understand. What I believe is premillennial, that Jesus Christ is going to come back here. The tribulation period is going to come upon this earth, and then God's going to bring in the millennium here. The postmillennial return of Christ is that we convert the world and make the world so good that God will come back and take it over. Because the church, and they have the church, the idea of leaven. Leaven in the Bible is always a type of what? Evil, false religion. And even if you go back and you study Augustus Neander's history, if you go back during that period of time, Augustine or Augustine, what do you want to call him? All these big shots, they call him Augustine, but he's named Augustine. Yeah. Augustine, he believed in what we call the city of God, and John Calvin even started that project. And he organized and regulated a police church state that if you didn't go tithe, you were put in jail. If you didn't go to church, you were put in jail. And in the United States and all of the colonies in America, it was that way too, except for Rhode Island later. If you didn't tithe, you went to jail. If you didn't do all the things that the church, you didn't go to church, you went to jail. Now, does God ever actually force people to believe? What did he do? He made man in his image, and he made him in his sovereign image, and therefore you have the sovereignty whether you can go bad or go good. Well, they believed, as the Sadducees believed, that if you change society, that you can regulate morality, and men will become better and better until finally we have a utopian society. We had a president that was that way. Wilson. Wilson was a very moral man. He was a Christian man. But he believed in this postmillennialism. Southern Baptist Convention believed in this postmillennialism. Southern Baptist said, you give us $9 million, we'll convert the world, we'll turn all the world into Christianity. Augustine said by 650 A.D. they were going to bring in the millennium. Now remember, I keep telling you all the time that it's just according to what timeline that you believe in, what time we are right now. According to Augustine, you know where we are right now? You know what year this is after creation? According to Augustine? We're almost in the 8,000 years. Augustine said that for 6,000 years, man would rule. The 7,000 year, and that rule of God began in the church. And the church began in the seventh millennium. And he said by 650 A.D. that we would be in the eighth millennium, 8,000 years after creation. Remember this New Age business? They don't have enough education to even know what century we are in after the creation. Because they haven't studied anything else. The Septuagint says up to Christ was 6,000 years then. Up to Christ was 6,000. Of course, we got other says at 4,000 years. But the oldest chronology is 6,000 years when Christ came. 6,000 and something years. Over 6,000 years. Well, these postmillennialists kept believing that, and these were all Augustine's students, and Origen, all of these, Origen, All of these were postmillennialists. They kept believing that the millennium was going to come, that Jesus is going to come back over here. And he's going to bring in the eternal kingdom of God. Because they were in the millennium. They kept believing. They said, well, by 1000 AD, he's surely going to be here. Well, 1000 AD came and gone. And guess what happened? 2000 AD came and gone, didn't it? Did they bring in millennia yet? Are the Sadducees right? Are the postmillennialists right? Are the amillennialists right? No. Is things getting better? Or are they getting worse? Yeah. That's what you call spiritualizing Scripture. When you spiritualize Scripture, you can make it mean anything you want to. How about if you spiritualize the virgin birth? Where do you end up? Well, what if you spiritualize baptism? Where do you end up? Pedobaptism, baptism for salvation, all that kind of stuff. Hello, brother, Dr. John. Acts the 23rd chapter, talking about these Sadducees, these post-millennialists, so to speak. They believe that. Now let's go on a little bit further. Acts 23. Paul said, I am a Pharisee, son of Pharisees. As a matter of fact, he said in another place, I'm a Hebrew of Hebrews. He said, I speak biblical Hebrew in my home. Now he's going to stand up here and he's going to speak what we call vernacular Hebrew, which was Aramaic in his time. He said, I am a Pharisee, son of a Pharisee, and I am on trial for the hope of the resurrection of the dead. Now he just divided the group. Now he only had half the people to fight that he had before. Verse number 7. And as he said there arose a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And the assembly was divided. What was divided? There was a mob there, and there's also the Sanhedrin. With this Sanhedrin, there is a mob also in the Sanhedrin. For the Sadducees say there is no resurrection, no angels, nor spirit, no God. Man's just going to get better and better. If we lay down these basic rules, human society is going to just become a utopia. Well, that's what Wilson did, isn't it? After the first Great War, he didn't want to go into that war, but when he went into that war, what was the first thing he did? He set up the United Nations so there'd never be another war, because he thought that we were going to bring in a utopia. They thought they could do this. But that's overlooking beyond. I'm not saying he wasn't a Christian. He was a great Christian man. He was the first doctor. He was the first president of the United States that actually had a doctor's degree. He was the most educated man at that time. And he tried his best to bring in what he believed, and he was a good old Baptist, you know. He believed that they were going to bring in the millennium. He believed that. Well, it didn't work, did it? Why? They completely forgot the book of Revelation and spiritualized the book of Revelation, spiritualized Daniel, spiritualized Ezekiel, and they don't see the great destruction that's coming upon the earth. The beast of false religion. These Sadducees were beasts. These Pharisees was beasts, and Paul was one of those beasts at one time, and Ananias was definitely a beast at that time, the beast of false religion. And there arose a great uproar, and some of the scribes and the Pharisee party stood up and kept on arguing heatedly, saying, we find nothing wrong with this man. Now they're going to protect him because he's talking on their side. Suppose a spirit or an angel has spoken to him. Now I guarantee you the Pharisees didn't believe that, did they? And Paul had said that before, hadn't he? I'm going to go read you a little story here. Now this is a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale, but you know, 1.5 billion people in the world believe this to be a fact. Well, I'm going to read to you. Okay? Now, I talked to you about in the end times, the Mahdi's going to come forth out of Arabia. And, you know, he's going to be a descendant of Muhammad, and he's going to be a reluctant leader, and he's going to come in, and they're going to force him. He's going to be 40 years old, and they're going to force him to become the leader. And during his 7-year reign, just compare it to the Bible, what the Bible's saying, okay? Then it says, a beast shall come forth out of Arabia. Now the Mahdi is going to move the Kaaba to Jerusalem. They're going to make a covenant with Israel, and they're going to build a new temple there, and all of this. This is what we call Islamic eschatology, and that's why ISIS is doing what they're doing today, because they think they're bringing in their utopia, and they think the Mahdi is there, the Imam Mahdi. Okay. Now this is the beast. This is their description of the beast. It's not my description of the beast, because I would never describe anything like this. It's a grotesque-looking thing, this beast. The Bible talks about the beast of Revelation. What's the beast of Revelation going to do? This beast of false religion. He's going to mark everybody, and he's going to do great miracles and do fantastic signs and everything, okay? The Dabat al-Ad, in Muslim belief, will be one of the signs of the coming of the last day. This creature will appear after the sun rises in the west. Where does the sun rise? When the Mahdi comes forth, he's going to make the sun rise in the west and go down in the east. He's going to change everything. What does the Bible say about this in the book of Daniel? What's the Bible say in the book of Daniel about this false Antichrist? He's going to change times and seasons. He's going to change the calendar. We're going to get rid of this Christian calendar, and we're going to go into a lunar calendar of Muhammad. According to Islam, that's what they say. And the book of Daniel and Ezekiel talks about this guy. The book of Revelation, he's going to change all this stuff. Well, let's just listen to them for a minute, okay? Just listen to what they're saying. The sun's going to rise in the west. Everything's going to change. The phrase appears in the Koran and in the Sunnah. Sunnah an-Nami. The term also appears in the Hadith, which expands upon the activities of the beast. The Quran mentions that the beast will address the unbelievers and admonish them for their lack of attention towards God, toward Allah and Muhammad. The following is the purport of the Quranic verse that has been discussed. And when the word is fulfilled against them, the unjust, we shall produce from the earth a beast to face them. A beast of false religion. Beasts of false religion always kill, don't they? What's the difference between a peaceful religion and a violent religion? What's the difference?
God.
Let me just tell you something. If you take one of these holy Bibles out here in some mosque or some Buddhist colony, and you denounce the God of the Bible, and you burn this, and you burn the American flag, what do the Christians do? They pray for you. What if you do that to a Koran? People all over the world are going to be killed. Is that a beastly religion? Well, is it a peaceful religion? You denounce their prophet, call him an evildoer, a scoundrel, a son of Satan, they'll kill you. If you call Jesus anything, down on the streets of Bakersfield, you can hear Jesus' name used in vain every day, but you won't hear Muhammad's name used in vain. They'll kill you. That's the difference between a peaceful religion and a violent religion, okay? Let's go on and look at this story, okay? This story. And he will strike the face of disbelievers with a ring of Solomon. The ring of Solomon. He's going to have it on his fist. Boom! I'm going to get you. He will strike the face of the ring of Solomon. Now, what did the high priest tell them to do to Paul? Slap him! Violent religions are always beastly religions, aren't they? Acts 23. And he is destined for hell and will be written on his forehead, and on his face will be blackened. You know, a lot of these black people become Muslims. Do you know what Muhammad called a bad person? A nigger. A nigger. He was a nigger. That's what he was. He had niggery ways, evil ways. He will blacken his face and he will brighten the face of the believer with the staff of Moses. He is destined for paradise, and he will mark on there. He will mark these people. And will be written on his forehead. This allegiance will be written on his forehead. The mark of the beast, the mark of the beast. What could the mark of the beast be? You know, we talked about the mark of the beast being the codes and your Social Security number for many, many years and all that stuff. I did that. We talked about Russia coming and invading Israel in the foreign land, and Russia was going to be Gog and Magog. Just comes find out, you go look at that geographically, and it's not Gog and Magog of Russia. It is Islamic countries. Every one of these countries that's going to attack Israel are Islamic countries. That's just the way it is. That's the truth. Now this beast is going to write on their foreheads. And what is the confession of faith? There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger or his prophet. As it is seen, when the beast emerges, people will start to believe, but belief will not be accepted by everyone, because of the emergency of major signs. It says there's going to be a false Jesus come on the scene too. Their false Jesus is Jesus of the Bible. Their Jesus is a Jesus that's going to kill all the Jews and then kill all the Christians. Then he's going to kill all the swine because they were mutated forms of Jews. Now let's look and see what it says about this beast. According to Al-Qatarib book, Tad Ki Kara, the beast is described. Reported that the beast is said its head to be the head of a bull. Okay, the head of a bull. This is what it's going to look like, the head of the bull. And its eyes like the eyes of a pig. And its ears like the ears of an elephant. Now we're talking about holy books in Koran, this is their holy book. Its horns like the horns of a stag, in other words, deer horns. Big deer horn. And its neck like the neck of an ostrich. You get it? All right, you got it. Its chest like the chest of a lion. Its color like the color of a tiger. Its haunches like the haunches of a cat. Its tail is like the tail of a ram. Its legs like the legs of a camel. And between each pair of its joints is a distance of 18 feet. All right? Between its joints. You got it. You want me to read that over again? Don't make sense. Didn't make sense. I don't think I could draw something like this. I mean, Sharon might be able to, but not me. He says, truth has now arrived and falsehood has perished, for falsehood is by its nature bound to perish. This beast shall bestow favor upon those who are deemed weak in the land, and to make them imams, and to make them heirs, to grant them power in the land, to make Pharaoh and Haman and their hosts see from them what they feared. That's the beast of the Koran. Let's go on to Paul now. Let's get back over and see the beast that he's fighting today at this period of time right there. And I'm going to take you back there. All right, now the Sadducees and the Pharisees are all divided. And the Pharisees say, well, maybe he has seen an angel. Maybe a spirit has appeared, and maybe God appeared to him. Whatever. We believe in those things. And as a great dissension was developing, the commander was afraid. The commander was afraid. Now you have to realize now, in the Antonio fortress, that's where he's listening from. And the Antonio fortress looks down on the courtyard of the temple area. So they're up there and they're listening to what's going on down there. All right? The commander was afraid, and Paul would be torn to pieces by them, and ordered the troops to go down and take him from among them by force and bring him into the barracks. The barracks there is what? The Antonio fortress. But on the night immediately following, the Lord stood at his side and said, now, stood at whose side? Paul's side. Now, the Lord said, go on and do what you're going to do. Okay? All of these other people were saying that Paul was going to be arrested, and they would try to murder him there in Jerusalem when he got there, didn't they? Did they try to do this? They tried to murder him. The Lord stood by his side and said, take courage, for as you have solemnly witnessed to my cause in Jerusalem, so you must witness in Rome also. How many people got to be converts in Rome? Who did Paul convert in Rome? He said he converted the whole Praetorian Guard. Did Paul die in Rome? Yes, he died. He was beheaded later on. But what kind of a witness was he? We got these words from him that Luke, his disciple, wrote down in this book. Every time Luke puts down we, he means Luke and Paul and all these people. Now the conspiracy to kill Paul. Now let's look at the beast again. The beast of false religion. The beast. And when it was day, the Jews formed a conspiracy. You know what a conspiracy is? What's a conspiracy? It's a plot. A plot. You ever been Marilyn, have you ever been the object of a conspiracy?
Most of my life.
Most of your life? I have. I've had contracts out on me. I've been shot at, poisoned, run over. Anything you can think of, blasphemed, whatever. Conspiracy. Formed a conspiracy and bound themselves under an oath. They fenced themselves in. That's what an oath means. Saying that we will neither eat nor drink until they have killed Paul. These are a real good bunch of beasts, aren't they? Not quite like that one with the ostrich neck and the head of a bull and the elephant ears and a ram's tail and a stag horns and camel legs and all of that business. And there was more than 40 of them in this plot. You know what? Paul was outnumbered, wasn't he? But he had Jesus, didn't he? If you got Jesus, just forget it.
Does the number 40 have any?
Yeah, it has lots of meaning. Lots of meanings. Well, in Islam, 40 means a lot of things. They use it. You know, that's how long Jesus is going to, their Jesus is going to rule after he kills all the Jews and kills all the Christians and kills all the pigs. He's going to rule for 40 years. The Mahdi's going to rule for 7 years. Jesus is going to rule for 40 years after that, according to Islam. That's no lie. I mean, they're saying these things. I can read it right out of their books. And they came to the chief priests and the elders and said, we have bound ourselves on this. Here are the leaders of the beast. Now, the chief priest, what did the Sanhedrin, what was it made up of? How many of you remember? 70 people, but who are these dudes? Who are these beasts?
One high priest.
One high priest, 23 Pharisees,
okay.
23 scribes, 23 priests. These are the ones, 23, 23, 23, and 1. All beasts of false religion here. All of them. All beasts. They bound themselves under a solemn oath to taste nothing until we have killed Paul, and therefore you and the council notify the whole council's in on this, isn't it? The whole Sanhedrin is full of beasts. You and the council notify the commander to bring him down to you as though you were going to determine his case by more thorough investigation. That reminds me of the investigations on the, remember doing the Inquisition? How did they investigate you in the Inquisition? Tortured you until you finally said, whatever you say, I did it. And then they kill you. Burn you. And we, for our part, are ready to slay him before he comes near the place. Wonderful beast, aren't they? The beast of false religion. But the son of Paul's sister. Now look at here. The son of Paul's sister. That's his nephew. Paul's nephew heard of this ambush, and he came and entered the barracks and told Paul. And Paul called one of the centurions. What is a centurion? What is a centurion? Remember what a centurion is, Nadine? He what? He's a guard, but what? How about it, Joanne? What's a centurion? Bill, what's a centurion now? It's your time to stand out and really look smart.
What's a centurion?
Uh-huh.
That's a modern day mafia.
Sister Andino.
It's a
Oh,
man.
he was a guard.
100 miles.
He's a man over 100 men. This was one of 100. This was one man of centurions. We had the word century. How long is a century? 100. So we have a centurion. He is a man over 100 men, okay? Have you learned anything so far today? All right, you know what a centurion is. All right. And Paul called one of the men over 100 men and said to him, this is the boss, this is a leader, this is a, what would you call this, a captain or something? Brother Roger, is he captain? Yeah. Okay. Lead this young man to the commander. Now this guy is what? This is the commander of 1,000 men. A kiliarch. Kilia. How much is a kilo? 1,000. All right, kilo. If you want down, you can put, if you do this, what's that mean? 10,000. Also, so here we have a commander of 1,000 men. All right, this commander. And where am I? Verse number 17. Lead this young man to the Kiliarch, for he has something to report to him. So he took him and led him to the commander and said to him, Paul the prisoner called me to him and asked me to lead this young man to you since he has something to tell you. Now this is what? This is a young man that contacted the centurion that was over 100 men. Now we got a man over 1,000 men. What is this guy? Is this the general? Brother Roger? This is the general. Captain Roger. And the commander took him by the hand, stepping aside, kept on inquiring. When you see the word began there, it's usually in the imperfect tense in Greek, okay? And he kept on inquiring of him privately, what is this that you have to report to me? And he said to him, the Jews have agreed to ask you to bring Paul down tomorrow to the council, as though they were going to inquire somewhat more about him. So do not listen to them. For there are more than 50 of them that are lying in wait for him, who have bound themselves under a curse. A curse. What's a curse?
It's an evil
A curse of evil. A twisted pledge. A curse that they will give their lives to do this. They're jihadists. They are the Hamas. What's Hamas mean in Hebrew, Brother Roger?
Evil.
It means violence and evil. Hamas, Hezbollah, all of this. You got it all here. Now this is it, the beast of evil. And not to eat or drink until they slay him, and now they are ready and waiting for the promise from you. And therefore the commander let the young man go, instructed him to tell no one that you have notified me of these things. Now we're going to see how God can move nations to protect his people. At times, people die all the time, don't they? People die at the hands of beastly false religions every day. There's somebody going to die today. I can guarantee you somebody's going to be killed today in the name of false religion. That's an absolute fact. And they may be even off in parts of false religion. There's Mormons dying over there. There's Jehovah's Witnesses dying over there. Neither one of them know God, but they're dying in the name of false religion because they name Jesus. Verse number 23. And he called to him two of the centurions. Joanne.
Yeah.
Two centurions. What do we have here? Two 2 captains over 100 men. So we got 200 men now.
Legion?
No, not a legion. Centurion. This is centurion. 2 centurions. These men are leaders of, these are 2 groups of 100 people, so we got 200 people here, okay? 200 people. Centurion. So he called him 2 of the centurions, 2 men over 100 people. And he said, get how many? 200 soldiers ready by the 3rd hour of the night, and to proceed to Caesarea with 70 horsemen. 70 horsemen. This is what we call, these would be, today, this would be our jets. Or something like that, fast moving. 70 horsemen and 200 spearmen. These people are accomplished in using spears, not for just targets. So now we have a deadly force of Roman soldiers that God is using to protect this one man against this evil, beastly religion that was one time God's religion. But the administrators of this kingdom are now beasts. They are the ones that Jesus said, you're bankrupt, when he broke the benches. He attacked the high priest when he told them they were bankrupt. The high priest was bankrupt. The Sanhedrin was bankrupt. All of you are bankrupt, he said. 200 spearmen. Now, why in the world? Why in the world did they go through all of this effort to protect this one Jewish had-been Pharisee? Thank you, young lady. There's A+. He's a Roman citizen. Now let's go and look and see what Roman citizenship was, okay? I wrote all this stuff out, see, so I can just sit here and read it to you. This requires a lot of work. Roman citizenship. Now, this guy's first name was Claudius. Now, I want you to understand this Claudius Listus that he's sent to, okay? Claudius Listus. He has had a citizenship conferred upon him. And it was conferred upon him by Claudius Caesar. That's why his first name is Claudius. Claudius is a title. Okay? Claudius is a title. So now this man citizenship has been conferred upon Claudius Listus. Okay? Discussion between Paul and Claudius emerges on the topic of Roman citizenship. Part of Claudius's investigation proceed to find out more information was to stretch out the detained for whips and flog them. Before his flogging began, Paul questions the centurion, given this detail, it is lawful for you to flog a man who is a Roman citizen and uncondemned. Wham! Okay? That's a real, now they're afraid. If you were a man, a commander, and you flogged a Roman citizen without being condemned, what happened, Brother Roger? You probably was a death sentence, and the death sentence was going to be on the cross. Because you had insulted a fellow Roman. Romans were this high in political society. They're the highest in political society. You don't mess with a Roman. You don't mess with a Roman. Uncondemned. And Roman citizen had a number of privileges, as this John Polhill writes. A Roman citizen was subject to Roman law, and thus was protected from such things as being beaten without a trial, from cruel punishments, like crucifixion, from unlawful imprisonments, rights which did not belong to the ordinary citizens. The ordinary citizenry did not have these rights, but Paul had these rights. Do you think Paul was called out by election of God for no reason? Just think about all of the God's unpreventable progress and his eternal purpose as you look in the life of Paul. Citizens had the right of appeal. Only a Roman citizen could legally marry another Roman citizen. Paul's wife that had divorced him probably was a Roman citizen. A Roman citizen could only marry another Roman citizen. A female could not marry just anybody. A Roman citizen. Who was Pontius Pilate's wife? Who was Pontius Pilate's wife? Who was Pontius Pilate's wife? Who was Dr. John? You know who Pontius Pilate's wife was? Sharon. Tiberius Caesar's daughter. He was married to the daughter of the emperor of the Roman Empire. Pontius Pilate was. But of course, she was one of his concubines' daughters. But see, now they could have concubines too. See, this is all legal, but it was literally Tiberius Caesar's daughter. Citizens were exempt from certain taxes. Was Paul exempt from these taxes? Yep. Beyond this, there was a considerable factor of honor difference, such as status afforded. They were the highest in the highest echelon of society. The untouchables, so to speak, in society. It was with such valued honor that some people risked the death penalty given for falsely claiming citizenship. It was a death penalty if you said you were a Roman citizen and you could not prove it. The death penalty was crucifixion. Interestingly, one could hold dual citizenship, as Paul was not only a citizen of the city of Rome, but he was also a citizen of the city of Tarsus from the province of Cilicia, Acts 21:39 and 23 and 34. And what was this city? Did this city have to pay? That was a free city, wasn't it, Brother Roger? And they did not pay any taxes. So Paul the Apostle had dual citizenship of Rome and Tarsus, and he was the highest of Roman citizenship. So he could be protected by 2 centurions, 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen. You know, the Bible absolutely is accurate. I want you to understand. You just study the Bible all you can study. You want to, and you're not going to run into any kinks or knots or anything in the way, because it's going to prove itself. Do you know that you can find this letter in Roman history? This is part of the records. Pontius Pilate's letter is a letter that you can find and read to Tiberius Caesar. Matter of fact, Tiberius Caesar was a convert. And they named the little city of Tiberias around the Sea of Galilee from Tiberias city as Antonian. The Antonian fortress was named after Anthony. Caesar, Anthony, Anthony and Cleopatra. Who put Herod the Great in power? Anthony and Cleopatra, and this is history. They even make movies about this, don't we? This tie it all together. Roman citizenship was conferred in a number of ways. The most common way was being born from 2 Roman citizens. You were a Roman citizen if you were born from 2 Roman citizens. How many of you knew that? This new stuff to you? This is the claim Paul makes when he asks how he obtained his citizenship. I am a citizen by birth. My mother and my father were both Roman citizens from where? Tarsus. We're not talking about Spain, Tarsus. We're talking about a different Tarsus. Acts 22:28, which implies that both of Paul's parents were Jewish Roman citizens. Now you can go look all of this stuff up. Okay. One could obtain citizenship as a reward for military service. And how long did you have to be in military service to get Roman citizenship?
10 years.
20 to 25 years. It wasn't a walk in the park. You had to risk your life for 20 to 25 years, according to what rank you were in, to become a Roman citizen. When the Romans finally went into the Wales, they couldn't conquer those people. So you know what they told them to? You know what they told the Welsh? You go back over there, you see the Roman wall in Britain and Ireland, Wales, Scotland, all through there. You see all these Roman walls over there. Everything on that one side was Rome and the other was the other place, the Roman wall. They said, you can become citizens of Rome now if you'll join our empire. Because we can't whip you. We need soldiers that's tough like those Scots people and those Welsh. We need people like you. So you can become instant citizens if you will follow us. Which they did. Regular military veterans were given citizenship upon discharge. Not while they were soldiers, but upon discharge, after they had proved themselves. This was the surest way to get it. 20 to 25 years of risking your life to become a Roman citizen. But once you did that, no taxes. Do you understand all this, what this citizenship entails? Imperial conference, though heard of, was not entirely common. Nevertheless, the emperor could confer citizenship either on individuals or by whole communities, as in the establishment of the new colony in Wales, in Scotland, in Ireland, and those places. As they did, okay? Often the result of doing some loyal service to Rome. Also, many times through these services, one gained an audience with the emperor through expensive gifts to members of the inner imperial court. This may have been how the tribune Claudius Lysias gained his citizenship, because he was named after the emperor, that his first name, his title, Claudius, was after Claudius Caesar. Okay? Acts 22, 27, 28. In fact, the tribune's name, and he was a tribune, by the way, a name provides evidence to assume the plausible that Emperor Claudius, AD 41 through 54, conferred upon Lysias citizenship, since those granted this honor would bear the name of the grantor. Number 4, Roman citizenship was also conferred through emancipation of a slave from the house of a Roman citizen. Some have suggested that Paul's ancestor may have been freedmen from among the thousands of Jews who Pompey took slaves in 63 BC. Now let's go on a little bit further. There were to provide mounts to put Paul on and bring him safely to Felix the governor. Felix, by the way, means happy. And he wrote a letter having this form, and this is exactly the form that is written in history. I have read to you Pontius Pilate's letter to Tiberius Caesar, telling and explaining what he did in the case of the trial of Jesus, and why that he did declared him innocent, and how that Jesus actually rose from the dead, that Jesus had actually performed all the miracles that he did, and all the things that he did, and that the real culprits in the land were the Jews and the Sanhedrin, the Herodians, the Sadducees, and the Pharisees, and the Levites. Claudius Lysias. Most excellent governor, Felix, greetings. When this man was arrested by the Jews and was about to be slain by these beasts, remember the beasts of false religion, I came upon them with the troops and rescued him, having learned that he was a Roman. How high an honor is that? The highest in the land. That's why he... Now, I'm going to tell you something about your citizenship. You got a higher citizenship than that, don't you? When you're born again, you are a citizen of heaven, and that Holy Spirit in you marks you for eternity and for the resurrection. And waiting to ascertain the charge for which they had accusing him, and brought him down to their council, the Sanhedrin. And I found him to be accused over questions about their law, but under no accusation deserving death or imprisonment. And I was informed that there would be a plot against the man, and I sent him to you at once, also instructing his accusers to bring charges against him before you, because he was a Roman citizen. Does it make sense now? You read this in the Bible without all this background, and what you got? Baloney. But when you read and you study the background here, we have a legitimate. Why would they give 200 men, 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen to just protect a guy like this? Because he was a high Roman citizen. By birth. So the soldiers, in accordance with their orders, took Paul and brought him by night to Antipatris. But the next day, leaving the horsemen to go on with him, they returned to the barracks, which is what? The Antonio Fortress, which is overlooking the temple area in Jerusalem. And when these had come to Caesarea, delivered the letter to the governor, and they presented Paul to him. And when they had read it, he asked from what province he was, and he learned that he was from Cilicia. And he said, I will give you a hearing after your accusers arrive also, giving orders to him to be kept in Herod's praetorium. And that's where we'll start next week. Do you have any questions? Did you learn something this week? What did you learn? A little something here, a little something there? All right. Well, thank you for listening. Go out and do something eternal.